What's up fam, my name is Tech and welcome to my Mass Effect 3 multiplayer guide for the Human Infiltrator. In this video, I intend to document my research on the class and hopefully spread awareness that people are still playing this game. If you have any advice for me or other new players, please drop a comment, and I'll be dropping links to useful information in the description. So, the Human Infiltrator. For their overall movement and stats, they have the standard human stuff. They can sprint, roll, and use cover, and they have 500 health and shields by default. Its two passive trees, Alliance Training and Fitness, have the usual weapon and power bonuses as well as melee and durability boosts. Your first ability is the one iconic to Infiltrators, Tactical Cloak. When you cast this ability, your character becomes invisible for a few seconds. By default, it lasts 4 seconds, and using most abilities or weapons will end the cloak, giving you a damage bonus. This lasts for about 2 seconds after cloak ends, which means you can utilize multi-hitting attacks without losing value on the subsequent shots. This window also allows you to use a power and quickly follow it with a boosted shot. The cooldown of this ability is proportional to the length of time you have it up. The minimum cooldown is about 3 seconds. This means that if you manage your use of cloak well, you can take heavy weapons without worrying too much about cooldown. This ability is most often used for damage, however you can get great utility out of it with the duration perk at rank 4. It'll give you 11 seconds of cloak, which is enough time for a full channel of the device objective. So what are the downsides of Tactical Cloak? There are two. First, while you have cloak activated, you can't regenerate shields at all. And second, enemies can still target you while cloaked under a few conditions. If they see you cloaking and there are no other targets, if you're too close to an enemy, or if you're the last person alive. These two downsides mean that you'll have to learn how to use your cloak well and be offensive with it, otherwise you can end up getting yourself killed. Next up is Cryoblast. This ability shoots a tracking projectile that freezes or chills targets on hit. It doesn't deal any damage, but it reduces the movement speed of protected enemies and will completely immobilize unprotected enemies. It also weakens armor and stops the health regeneration of the target if it has it. Cryoblast has decent synergy with sniper rifles as they can freeze targets for easy headshots. I also think the perk choices are pretty balanced. At rank 4 you can get duration or radius, essentially a choice between hitting one target longer or multiple targets. In rank 5 you can choose between freeze explosion or speed reduction. The former gives you more damage against affected targets, while the latter makes slower targets like brutes never catch you. While I think Cryoblast can be a powerful ability, I personally don't think that it particularly synergizes well with this class. I mentioned before that it does well to give you headshots with sniper rifles, however since the projectile is so slow, it's not really effective at doing this at long ranges. It's better used at short ranges. Given that you'll be using Tactical Cloak often and you will likely have a heavier loadout, you won't get opportunities to use this well. Your last ability is Sticky Grenade. This ability is the most straightforward. You throw a grenade, it sticks to whatever it hits, and it does big damage in an area. It works very well with this class's kit because it doesn't break cloak and it does not have a cooldown. And even though it doesn't break cloak, it does benefit from the damage bonus. Sticky bombs will apply ammo effects on hit, which will detonate with the explosion, so it can generate a power combo on its own. With Tactical Cloak and an ammo power, this ability becomes a pretty good boss breaker. At rank 6, you can choose to make it persist for 15 seconds on the surface it lands on. This basically makes it act as a mine, while it also increases the blast radius. The one thing you need to keep in mind with this ability actually has nothing to do with it. Sniper rifles suffer from a 50% damage penalty when fired from the hip. This also applies to grenades, so if you have a sniper rifle equipped, use Sticky Grenade while scoped for maximum effectiveness. Now onto the builds. In my opinion, this class is most optimal being played as a sniper, but I like to give 2 builds because off-meta stuff can be just as fun. I'll start with the sniper build. You should max out Tactical Cloak, taking perks Damage, Recharge Speed, and Sniper Damage. With these, your bonus to sniper shots will be 105% before any other bonuses. It'll also add 80% damage to your Sticky Grenade. You'll be skipping Cryoblast in this build. Next, max out Sticky Grenade, taking Damage, Armor Piercing, and Damage. The goal here is to have the highest single target damage you can get with this. For Alliance Training, take both weapon damages and headshots. You'll be at 35% bonus weapon damage before Tactical Cloak, assuming you land a headshot. And lastly, take all the bottom ranks in Fitness. Being a weapon build, I'll go over them here. Since the focus is on sniper rifles, you want to use the one you like the most. I prefer the M98 Widow, as it's the highest single shot damage you can get with a rare weapon. It also has inherent cover penetration. For attachments, try Armor Pen and Spare Clip Capacity. The Javelin can get higher single shot damage, however it is harder to obtain. Another alternative is the Mantis if you don't have the Widow. Mantis at level 10 is just a bit worse than the level 1 Widow. Other non-single shot rifles will work here as well if that's your preference. Whether or not you take a sidearm depends on whether you're comfortable sniping at close range or not. Your weapon weight does not matter too much with this build either way. And finally, for your gear bonus, take whatever you have that gives the highest sniper rifle damage. This build is focused on high damage to single targets. You'll be able to one-shot Phantoms and Dragoons provided you hit headshots with certain ammo types. The second build I recommend would be a Shotgun Infiltrator. Here you max out Tactical Cloak, taking duration, recharge speed, and bonus power. Then max out Cryo Blast, taking radius, cryo explosion, and frozen vulnerability. Max out Sticky Grenade with damage, max grenades, and proximity trap. Then the passives are your preference. For your weapon, take your favorite shotgun with the shock trooper gear bonus. This build plays like a hunter. You should be sneaking near enemies and setting sticky traps in their paths. You can also do some solid AoE damage by hitting a group with Cryo Blast followed by a sticky grenade. And you'll have good utility for objectives like devices or objects. Since I went over the weapons in the build section, I'll get straight to the tips. If you don't get any of the other tips past this point, stick around for this one. There's a trick you can use to increase your damage output by a lot when using single shot sniper rifles. Some rifles like the M98 Widow have really long reload animations. You can essentially reload cancel, allowing you to cut the reload time in half depending on the weapon. You can do this by performing any action while reloading and timing it right when the next shot is ready. You can sprint, enter cover, or use abilities, anything like that. This pairs extremely well with Tactical Cloak as you can fire 2 shots very close behind each other. What you might not immediately notice is that you can even do this by activating abilities that are on cooldown. Because of this, you can cut your reload in such a way that you're immediately ready to fire at all times. Also, when using single shot sniper rifles, you must keep in mind shield gating. This is a mechanic in Mass Effect 3 that protects both you and enemies from being one-shot while having shields or barrier. This affects all weapons, but is most notable with sniper rifles. Put most simply, whenever you deal damage with bullet-based weapons, if you do enough damage to break the enemy's shield, the remaining damage will be reduced by a large amount, which goes up depending on the difficulty. For this reason, it can be hard to one-shot enemies on Gold Plus. However, there's one way to get around this. If you take Disruptor or Phasic rounds, you'll do a lot more damage to enemy shields, which will leave you a lot more damage to kill the target. This also helps you strip bosses' shields more quickly, so those two are a great option. Additionally, the Keyshock Harpoon Gun is not affected by shield gate. 2 other good choices for ammo powers are Warp Ammo and Cryo Ammo. Warp Ammo, like the aforementioned, will do the same for barriers, and it will also boost your damage to armor significantly, which will complement your boss breaking potential. And Cryo Ammo will give you a chance to freeze unprotected targets. If you were not able to kill them in one shot, freezing them will give you the kill almost for free. Also, like Warp Rounds, Cryo Ammo weakens armor. When using Tactical Cloak, some weapons that charge, including the Harpoon Gun, do not break cloak on firing, they break it on charging. This means that you must charge before cloaking. When you really want to burst down a target, you want to cloak, then ADS, then hit with Sticky Grenade, and go for a headshot. If you're able to land all this in sequence with the highest damage bonuses, you could theoretically deal 14k plus damage in a single rotation, which is a sizable chunk to most bosses. In my opinion, this class is strongest against the factions in this order: Reapers, Collectors, Geth, then Cerberus. The Reapers have the most unprotected enemies in the game, which makes them easier to one-shot. Also, their elite enemies all have barrier or armor, so you can run warp ammo to melt them. Many Collector enemies have large heads, meaning they're easier to headshot, and being a weapon-focused class, they're not affected as much by Seeker Swarms. Warp ammo works here as well. Geth also have large heads for weak points, which makes you do good damage against them. However, they have 2 enemies that are often trouble for a sniper specifically. Those enemies are Bombers and Hunters. They can be difficult to see flanking you if you're tunnel on sniping, and they can do very good damage to you. Also, Bombers can be very evasive when you're trying to hit them, not to mention their bombs will shake your scope. And for Cerberus, many of their units can be one-shot, including Phantoms and Dragoons, which is a big positive. However, I find Cerberus to be the most aggressive of the factions. If you get pushed by a few Dragoons and flanked by a Phantom, you're going to have a hard time. Also, if you try to retreat, you might find yourself turning a corner into a turret or two, which will shred you extremely quickly. Because this class is so single target focused, it can go well with power-based classes that can deal AoE damage. With that being said, check out my video on the Human Engineer. If you like this video, please drop a like so the YouTube algorithm lets other people know this game is still being played. And if you want to continue learning this game with me, I'll be making more of these guides in the future. Later, fam.